Thank you. Yeah, Coach. Obviously, see Devin's out with the hamstring. So who are you starting tonight?
We'll let that out when the game starts. We don't want to give up too much. Something we've been talking about, but we'll see when we start.
Okay. Well, just to follow that up, obviously we know what Devin brings to the table as far as the scoring and being able to create plays. Uh, what are you looking for, whoever you start, and in the rotation that can make up or try to make up for what
Yeah,
what you lose with Devin?
I think the question is good. I think you could probably put yourself in a trap trying to fill those shoes. I think there has to be a collective effort tonight and not try to have one or two guys do what Devin does. The thing that has plagued us has been the turnovers. We had 8 in the fourth quarter, a bunch last night, 17 versus Houston. I think at Denver we had 17 for like 24 points. That's been obviously you miss Devin's production, his defense, his tenacity, but we have to take care of the ball, especially against a playoff tested team like Denver. If you look at our offensive rating quarter by quarter, it was a direct correlation from the turnovers to the diminishing number as it relates to the offensive rating. So a collective team effort for sure, controlling the things we can control, but also taking care of the ball as best we can.
All right, next up is Cody Cunningham with Suns.com. He'll be followed by Kellen Olson.
Hey, Coach. I know you touched on not calling a timeout yesterday, and then Chris talked and took responsibility for that as well.
That's not Chris. That play happened so fast, and forgive me for interrupting you. I've been in that situation before as a player, if you believe it or not. You get the ball, you don't realize how much time you have. You just know you got to stop, and you think it's at the end of the game or the quarter. That's certainly not his fault. It happens. And, I hate when he does that. We talked about it last night. It shouldn't have come down to that, and so it's one of those things we certainly will grow from, but it's not his fault. It's such a bang, bang play. You get the stop and you think it's at the end. And the way he got the rebound, he was already in motion somewhat. So that's a hard play to pinpoint, but certainly you do want to get a timeout in that situation, but I certainly wouldn't blame him for that.
For sure. I just want to know just how important, going off what you're saying, just how important is accountability for this team and the openness to be able to hold each other accountable?
It's huge. I mean, we talk about the growth of our team. You have to be vulnerable at times. And since I've known Chris, he's always taken those types of plays on his shoulders. And sometimes, it's a bit too much. But that's who he is. We had 8 turnovers in the fourth quarter. I mean, that's the game. And so I do like the responsibility or being willing to take the responsibility. I think it'll certainly help our young guys understand that. But I do believe those moments are going to help us grow as we, get better. And we're just in the pursuit of consistency. That's the thing that has kind of plagued us this year. We've had these tale of two halves. And it certainly hurt us last night.
All right, next up is Kellen Olson with Arizona Sports. He'll be followed by Chris Mannix.
Hey, Coach, since the Houston game, you guys have been pushing a little bit more off inbounds passes and increasing tempo a bit. What was the thought process behind that, and what have you thought of the results so far? And I think it's 2 games now.
Yeah, first half, it's been great. Even the third quarter against Houston, it was pretty good. The pace for us, we're like everybody else. I'm not as concerned with pace as I am efficiency, and the turnovers kill your efficiency. And then it's taken us a minute to deal with the switching. You know, once we figured out what they were doing in the switching, then we started attacking the paint and making the right pass on the weak side. But it is something that we focus on, getting the ball down the floor and trying to get it ahead of the defense before they get set. I mean, that's why you want to force stops. The more stops you can force and get ahead of the defense getting in their spots, you know, the more you can play in random. And that's a great way to play, especially early in the game.
All right, next up is Chris Mannix with Sports Illustrated. He'll be followed by Brendan Clean.
Hey, Monty, we're kind of at the 1 month mark of this unique season. I'm just wondering, have the logistical challenges, the health and safety challenges been what you expected, more difficult than you expected, easier than you expected? How would you assess them?
It's hard to say without, you know, anything you say in regards to that question could come off like you're complaining. It's just different, but it's a different kind of different because there's been inconsistencies in our day. That's the only thing that I struggle with is, you know, for the most part, my whole NBA life, every day's been 2 or 3 ways. You know what I mean? It depends on if you have a back-to-back or if you have a 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 8:30 game. Your day is pretty much the same. You got like 4 choices. You know what I'm saying? You could have an early game on a Sunday, but since we've been in this particular protocol, our days have been a lot different, and we're all creatures of habit, especially athletes. And so that's the only thing that I've struggled with because I'm, you know, I take the same way to practice, same way home. You know, the timing is sometimes you see the same people at the light when you're going home because they do the same thing. And so that's been the thing for me is like our days have changed so much. I mean, we just got tested before the game. Like that's something that the players are probably not used to, but it's just something you just have to adjust to the differences. And I wouldn't say it's bad. I wouldn't say it's good. It's just the way it is.
All right, next up is Brendan Clean with Forbes. He'll be followed by David Brandt.
Hey, Coach, you said when you were asked post-game about the points in the paint, and that's that scoring outburst that Denver had that you kind of needed to look things over.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious. It doesn't seem like one guy necessarily did all the damage. So I'm curious what you saw as you look back over things.
They were playing downhill a lot in DHOs. I think we have to do a better job. I know we have to do a better job of mixing up our coverages, but I thought Millsap was in our paint posting up smaller guys. That hurt us. When we switched on to Jokic, you know, his passing ability, it scares you into double teaming him. And so if he's got a smaller guy on him, he just, you know, that's where I feel like the 3 ball has really messed up so many programs because you're so afraid of giving up a 3 that you let a guy just back you down and shoot a point blank 2 over your smaller guy. I think we have to be able to mix up coverages, especially when we have a small guy on Millsap or Jokic, to not let those guys back us down the lane. And then there were just times where they drove right by us. And that was, you know, hard to watch. You know, we have to have a multiple effort. We call it trap the box. When there's a drive on the left side, the guy on the right side on the box has to come over and help out on the left part of the court so that we can prevent those paint points. And so I would say that, like driving the ball, their bigs, beating us up a little bit inside, and then, you know, we have to mix up the coverages when they're in their DHO offense. If you go over every time, they're just going right downhill, and that hurts your defense.
Sure.
All right, Coach, final 2 questions will come from David Brandt with the Associated Press, followed by Dwayne Rankin.
Hey, Monty, I just wanted to follow up on Devin's injury. What has the medical team told you about it? Is this something that you think is just a one-night thing, just precautionary, or is it something that could linger for, you know, a couple weeks or a little while?
We're really not sure. And that's, you know, what I've been told is it could be day to day, depending on how he feels. It could be another week. it just depends. He's a bit sore today, and so that's something we're going to be careful with, obviously. But he could feel better in a couple days. We just don't know. The hamstrings are just different. When I've done it, I had a high one time, and it felt like an electrical shock in my leg when I did it, and I'd never had anything like that before. And his is a bit lower, and so depending on where it is can affect the time that you're out. So it's really a day-to-day thing, but it's something we're going to be cautious with.
All right, Coach. Final question comes from Dwayne Rankin with Arizona Republic.
Yeah, I meant to, it slipped my mind last night to ask you this, but there was a play that Booker made where he turned it over and then he ran down and made a block, and he comes back down the other way and finds Ayton for a layup or a dunk. I was just curious, when you see the sequence like that, what does that speak to about Booker's growth as a player? Because, to not give up on the play and then turn around, make the play on that end and then turn around and then make a play on the other end. What does that speak to you as far as his growth as a player?
I mean, it certainly speaks to his competitiveness, to be able to make plays like that in succession at that point in the game, to have the energy to do that. As far as his growth as a player, I can't, I just think it's who we are. And he's one of the leaders in that, the multiple effort, playing with force and not giving up on plays. At that moment, I thought we had the game won. When you see a play like that made, or plays like that made, you start to your mind plays tricks on you because you think, okay, we got it. That's the kind of momentum changing play that we needed. But I just think he's a killer when it comes to being competitive. He just doesn't give up. And that was a signature play or sequence for me this year, to make those kinds of, have a mistake, make a play and make another play. Like, that's who we are. Don't give up and keep playing through your mistakes.